Hello and welcome to this video on maintaining your bonsai style when pruning. To keep your bonsai small, styled and alive, you need to prune it. Without this, it will grow wild, lose its shape and draw so heavily on the soil that it will run out of nutrition and die. Getting your pruning right will help to make sure you can have the best chance of keeping your bonsai for years. It will also continue to look good the entire time. There are many styles for bonsai. Fortunately, no matter what style you are aiming for or trying to maintain, the underlying pruning rules are the same. The idea is to keep the overall shape, promote new growth and ramification, develop branch redundancy, and keep the bonsai properly sized. You can do all of these things in a few more specific cuts, or you can prune your bonsai back in a more piecemeal manner while learning how to deal with each of these 4 key points. To keep your overall shape, you could just take a large set of secateurs, hedging shears, or a hedge cutter and trace the desired shape. This will create a bonsai with the right shape. The problem with this applies to bonsai, hedging, and just about everything else. It creates a very dense layer of foliage only on the very periphery of the tree or hedge. There is almost nothing further in towards the trunk. Seen from the side, it can look sort of like this. When pruning, this is very much what you want to avoid, as it prevents light from reaching through the tree to start with. It ensures that only the very edge of the tree has any growth, which leaves you with nowhere to go. It also means that if there are any problems, you don't have the means of getting back budding and encouraging new growth, since all of that development is on the very edge. To start with, you do want to take your bonsai back to this silhouette. You then want to cut back just a little bit further. The reason for this is to accommodate the growth that will occur after pruning. With your bonsai cut back to just short of the final size and shape you want, reduce any branches that are present to just 2. That is, end every branch that you can in a fork. This is not only how you get ramification, but it increases the density of the foliage from a ways into the branch and all the way out to the periphery of the foliage silhouette. This gives you depth of density, not just density. At a point in the future, you will need to cut this back to a position further back on the branch, as there is no more room for the tree to fit within the silhouette and still have the branches provide a dense foliage cover, but we will speak more on this later in the video. Over time, this is going to create a problem for you. Either your branches are going to get to a point at which you can no longer cut it back for bifurcation, or you will create bulbous growths by cutting back a single node or pair of branches repeatedly, and they will increase in size, and this will become very unseemly. This is why redundancy is important. You want both backup branches on the branch you are growing now, and you want to develop a replacement branch over time. These are 2 very different things and will be developed at different times. The backup branch is needed later in your bonsai's development. That is because it will replace a branch in its entirety in the future. This happens when you can no longer practically or effectively prune your bonsai branch back enough to have a good ratio of size and development. That occurs after you cut the branch back repeatedly. The first place you cut is at the end of the branch. This takes it back to the next branch closest to the trunk. This is then trained to replace your branches, creating the foliage pad and growing out from there. You keep taking this back as needed each time. This creates a situation in which you keep the size of the branch at the right ratio for the size of your bonsai. The replacement branch is a bit different in its role. As you shorten the original primary branch, it will start to get to a point where it's no longer practical to shorten it, or if you do, it will be the wrong size. This is what the replacement branch is for. It can be grown from the trunk in some cases. In other cases, you can try to grow it from a point very far back on the branch closest to the trunk, if not closer. You can start it either way and depends on how much work and time you have available. The branch can be started, and to streamline growth, you can create a sacrifice branch from this. If you have more time, you can let it grow out to the periphery. From here, you wire it according to your needs. Over the next few growing seasons, the branch will be pruned as needed to create the ramification and branching needed for your tree. The final issue is size. We already mentioned how the branch size is a concern. A main tree needs a much smaller branch than a shohin, true, or die size. This also applies to the foliage size. By cutting a branch back to the point closer to the trunk, you can keep leaves larger. By cutting closer to the periphery or silhouette, the leaves become smaller. This will directly influence your ratios. Bigger trees need bigger leaves. Smaller trees, smaller leaves. You will need to apply what we've already described to compensate for this with where, how, and when you prune which branches. As a general rule, smaller foliage is less of a problem than oversized foliage. As you can see, pruning your bonsai to maintain the size and style is more than just removing the top and bottom branches, cutting back the leaves to reduce size and promote ramification. You need to plan for not just the next season, but possibly for several years ahead. Trying to just accommodate for now will mean there is a point several years down the track where you suddenly find you need to remove branches and it ruins the appearance of your bonsai. Planning makes sure you don't have any of these rude surprises and that your tree always looks like it suits the size and style you have in mind. This will also help considerably in ensuring that you maintain that appearance and that you don't have to do as much work when it comes to wiring and other maintenance. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions you have below.